Thanks for joining me on the 8th episode of the Compact Coaster series. Today's episode is featuring the steel hybrid coaster. I decided to build in the T-shaped layout for this episode. I hope you enjoy this build as much as I did, and I hope you learned something that you can use in your own game. As you can see, we've already gotten started with the chain lift. Just did a quick U-turn out of the station. I kept this lift shallow for visual reasons. And for this initial drop, we needed to turn in either direction. I opted to go to the left on this one. And I wanted to do a quick pre-drop followed by a large smooth drop. I didn't want this one to get too steep. For this ride in general, I'm more focusing just creating a really smooth ride. And I wanted to come up into a really high overbanked turn. I thought the coaster would be going pretty slow through this section, so I made sure that I kept it really tight. Coming back down, I'm going to be crossing over the track. And after a crossing, we'll be going up a slope, and then I'm planning on going into a downward heartline roll. And I just want to make sure that we crest the hill before actually starting into the roll. And for the heartline rolls, and any roll in general, start using smaller pieces, and that ends up working much better than trying to use long pieces. The other key component to this kind of roll is to use the banking offset, which is found in the details section of the pieces. I just recently found this method of doing rolls from another YouTuber. The process can be lengthy, but it does end up being about the smoothest coaster you can possibly get in this game, the way it is now. I know right now the roll doesn't look very smooth at all, but with using the smoothing tool, we'll just select 4 pieces at once and work our way down smoothing, and then work our way back up and back down, and if you can do that as many times as you want. In the video I was watching, they said 3 to 4 times is about the optimal times. I only did it twice, and I still got a result that's plenty good for me. Let's see how it's looking so far. Alright, I think for our first shot, that roll came out really nice, and you can see down the line there, it was a real smooth turnover. I feel like our decline wasn't quite steep enough, it was a little shallow, so I'm going to end up dropping the ends a little bit and try to make it more like a normal hill would be if the heartline roll wasn't there. After re-smoothing that piece, I'll take another look at it, and I ended up liking this result much better than the first go-round. And I just want to check the speed real fast just to make sure we're doing okay. Let's also check the excitement while we're here looking at the heat maps. And wow, that the downer roll ended up being extremely exciting. Alright, and moving on to the rest of the track, I was going to go for a turnover into a half loop to get us going back towards the center on this end. Next, I'm planning on going in between the station and the chain lift to do a half loop and kind of a roll to get back going towards the very middle of the T. On our journey over to that section of track, I added in a bunny hill just to keep things exciting. Even the smallest half loop has me a little bit concerned about speed, so let's take this thing for a ride and see how it works. Alright, indeed that half loop is a little bit too slow, so let's try to add in a little bit more speed for the whole track in general. And you can see there right at the top, the chain lift was going on a downslope, and I felt like that was really holding the car back, and it was kind of getting a late release to go down the hill. So we're going to get rid of that and readjust our hill and try to gain a little bit of speed by these adjustments. I felt like the overbank turn after the initial drop was a little bit too tight to begin with, and now with the little added speed, it would definitely be way too tight. So we're going to open this up using the after editing tools. Shifting the track to either side and raising it should do the trick. I was trying to do some similar adjustments to the half loop. It wasn't really moving the way I wanted it to, and I really wasn't a fan with it even from the very start, so I just decided to scrap it and do kind of like a helix kind of thing. So after this helix, we're going to cross over the track. I'm going to do a kind of a double dip drop here to hopefully get some negative G time. And it'll also kind of mimic the other side of the track where we loop around and then go over the first part of the track. Since that original half loop between the station and the chain totally didn't work out, we're just going to do a hill to bank turn, head back towards the beginning of the track. In this hilled turn, I wanted to make sure I had a snappy vertex so that way we could get some more excitement up. And at the angle we were coming in, it totally just made sense to go in between the first overbank turn and then loop back towards the station. I'm going to try another roll into a half loop kind of thing, but more like a helix this time and more like a heartline roll entry. So I did use the banking offset for this one and a couple of shorter pieces. All right, now we can just smooth this out and take it for a quick ride and see how it looks. All right, I think those were improvements over what we ended up deleting. Just to go back into our helix and the hills, they weren't very smooth at all, so we're just going to smooth those pieces out. Although I thought the on-ride visual was fine for this heartline and helix kind of thing, the visual from the park view, or just, the not person riding view, didn't seem to look very good. It looked a little bit uneven, so I decided to make a couple adjustments there. And just realizing that we're only down to $600, we need to wrap this up with some brakes and block brake sections. Alright, now that we finally actually completed the track, we can go ahead and set the number of trains to 2, and we can start tweaking this coaster. I decided to get rid of the supports on the Heartline rolls. I plan on adding in some custom supports later on, so that way it's open than the boxed in stock supports are. I'm going to run through the track now and do a little bit more smoothing. Alright, we're getting ready to get in our first test rating, so I was checking out some of the heat maps while we're waiting for those results to come in. They came in at 6.2 excitement and a little over 4 fear. The fear was fairly surprising. I didn't think it was going to be even close to 4, so I'm going to go through the track and try to smooth out or slow down some of the features that were a little bit too scary. We're going to shift out some of the pieces in the helix that was hitting over 6 fear, and so hopefully that'll bring the fear down. And while I'm here, I'm going to try to exaggerate the dip a little bit and then re-smooth it for some excitement. Alright, let's go fix that first overbank turn. And I'm going to run the heat maps on this and go ahead and check the helix while the car's running. So our helix came out at 5 instead of 6, so that's a pretty good improvement. I did some other smoothing and adjustments, and the ratings came down quite a bit. The fear is now under 4, and our excitement is at 6. At this point, I think more speed could actually afford to really crank up the excitement, even if we do gain a little bit of fear while we're at it. To get the extra speed, I just deleted the lift and increased the angle by 5 degrees, and that got us, about 5 or 6 more meters at the top. That's one advantage to not doing your chain lifts at the maximum degree, is later on you can go back and adjust your track speed based off the chain lift. I was unable to use the after editing tools to get this first over loop to stretch out like I wanted it to, so just deleted it and recreated it to be a little bit taller and much wider than before. I went ahead and took my time trying to get that right, so let's see how it looks. Alright, that was miles better than it was originally. And however, we are stuck with $1.49 left in the budget. But on the brighter side of things, our rating is now at 6.5 excitement and about 4.5 fear. Even though we're broke, I still think we can squeeze a little bit more excitement and maybe lessen the fear. So to try to gain some money back, we're going to shorten up this first little U-turn, and that should give us enough money to just do some other simple edits to the track. I also didn't like how sharp the last turn was coming into the station, so I decided to shorten the block brakes and make the turn a little more gradual, so that also added to our budget. Alright, we just broke 7 excitement. I know it just dropped to 6.5 after that, but that was just because one of the trains was getting caught on one of the block brake sections, so we'll just adjust our train release speeds, or not speeds, train release times, so that way we can avoid that stoppage. Alright, I'm going to be nitpicky with it and do a little bit more smoothing, and then we'll call this one complete. Alright, we managed to grab a gold coaster in this episode. I was very pleased with the results. I hope you were as well. Now we're in our test placement, to just give you an idea of what this coaster might look like in a park. As always, this coaster is going to be available as a blueprint. You can just check the description, and you could follow me on the Steam Workshop so you don't miss any of the coasters I'm putting out. I did just want to mention one thing about the chain lift on this one. If you crank the speed up to full 14 miles an hour, then the excitement actually reaches close to 7.5. But the fear also does approach 5, and I noticed that a lot of guests weren't seeming to really ride the ride at that rate. The guest with a low fear tolerance usually peaks out at around 4.2 to 4.8. So for that reason, in my builds, I'm going to be dropping the chain lift speed to around 8 miles an hour, and that will bring the fear down of the coaster to the lower 4s. So that will mean more guests are riding, and ultimately that means more money. Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I hope you enjoyed this episode of the Compact Coaster series. Be sure to check me out on some of the other social medias and drop me a comment below and let me know what you think. Oh yeah, and I just started Twitch streaming. I'll be doing some Planet Coaster. Just go on Twitch and check out my schedule so you know when I'll be on, and come hang out. We're going to ride this one more time, and I will see you later.